Hello, Adrian. This is one of my favorite books called The Loss of Human Nature by Robert Greene. So it's been a while reading this book because I've been reading other so many books. That's why. Okay, so I feel excited. Yeah. So fortunately, to acquire rationality is not complicated. It just simply requires knowing and working through a three-step process. First, we must become aware of what is called low-grade irrationality. This is a function of continued moods and feelings that we experience in life below level of consciousness. When we plan or make decisions, we are not aware of how deeply these moods and feelings skew the thinking process. They create in our thinking pronounced biases that are so deeply ingrained in us. Okay. That we see evidence of them in all cultures and all periods of history. These biases, by distorting reality, lead to the mistakes and ineffective decisions that flag our lives. Being aware of them, we can begin to counterbalance their effects. Second, we must understand the nature of what we shall call high-grade irrationality. This occurs when our emotions become inflamed, generally because of certain pressures. As we think about our anger, excitement, resentment, or suspicion, it intensifies into a reactive state. Everything we see or hear is interpreted uh, through the lens of this emotion. We become more sensitive and more prone to other emotional reactions. Impatience and resentment can bleed into anger and deep distrust. These reactive states are what lead people to violence, to many oppression, obsessions, to uncontrollable greed or a desire to control another person. This form of irrationality is the source of more acute problems, crises, conflicts, and disastrous decisions. Understanding how this type of irrationality operates can allow us to recognize the reactive state as it is happening and pull back before we do something we regret. Third, we need to reenact certain strategies and exercises that will strengthen the thinking part of the brain and give it more power in the eternal struggle with our emotions. Emotions are continually affecting our thought process and decisions below the level of our awareness. And the most common emotion of them all is the desire for pleasure and the avoidance of pain. Our thoughts almost inevitably revolve around this desire. We simply recoil from entertaining ideas that are unpleasant or painful to us. We imagine we are looking for the truth or being realistic, when in fact we are holding on to ideas that bring a release from tension and soothe our egos, make us feel superior. This applies a principle in thinking is the source of all our mental biases. If you believe that you're somehow immune to any of the following biases, it is simply an example of pleasure principle in action. Instead, it is best to search and see how they continue to operate inside you, as well as to learn how to uh, identify such irrationality in others. Confirmation bias. I look at the evidence and arrive at my decisions through more or less rational processes. But because of the pleasure principle and its unconscious influence, we manage to find evidence that confirms what we want to believe. This is known as confirmation bias. In the end, the people want to hear their own ideas and preferences, confirmed by expert opinion. They will interpret what you say in light of what they want to hear, and if your advice runs counter to their desires, they will find some way to dismiss your opinion, your so-called expertise. The more powerful the person, the more they're subject to this form of the confirmation bias. When investigating confirmation biases in the world, take a look at theories that seem a little too good to be true. Conviction bias. I believe in this idea so strongly, it must be true. Those, on the other hand, who express nuances, whose tone is such a certainty, okay, whose tone is more hesitant, reveal weakness and self-doubt. They are probably lying, or so we think. These biases make us susceptible to salesmen and the demagogues who display conviction as a way to convince and deceive. They know that people are hungry for entertainment, so they cloak their half-truths with the dramatic effects. Appearance bias. I understand the people they were. I see them just as they are. We see people not as they are, but as they appear to us, and these appearances are usually misleading. First, people have trained themselves in a social situation to present the front that is appropriate, and that will be judged positively. They seem to be in favor of nobody's causes, always presenting themselves as hardworking and conscientious. We take these masks for reality. Second, we are prone to fall for the halo effect. When we see certain negative or positive qualities in a person, social awkwardness, intelligence, other positive or negative qualities are implied that fit with us. People who are good-looking generally seem more trustworthy, particularly politicians. If a person is successful, we imagine they're probably also ethical, conscientious, and deserving of their good fortune. This obscures the fact that many people who have gotten or had done so through less than moral actions, which they cleverly disguise from view. The group bias. My idea is my own. I do not listen to the group. I'm not a conformist. We are social animals by nature. The feeling of isolation, of difference from the group, is depressing and terrifying. We experience a tremendous relief when we find others who think the same we do. In fact, we are motivated to take up ideas and opinions because they bring us this relief. We are unaware of this pull, and so imagine we have come to certain ideas completely on our own. Yet few would ever admit this influence on their thought patterns, the blame bias. I learn from experience and mistakes. Mistakes are a value less than need to explain. We want to learn the lesson and not repeat the experience. But in truth, we do not like to look closely at what we did. Our introspection is limited. Our natural response is to blame others, circumstances, or a momentary lapse of judgment. The reason for this bias is that it is often too painful to look at our mistakes. It calls into question our feelings of superiority. It pokes at our egos. These are an emotion and will blind us yet again, and we will repeat exactly the same mistakes and go through the same mild, recriminating process, followed by forgetfulness until we die. Until we die? If people truly learn from their experience, we will find few mistakes in the world and create a pattern that ascend ever upward. Superiority bias. I'm different. I'm not rational than others. More ethical as well. Few would say this to people in conversation. It sounds arrogant, but in numerous opinion polls and studies, when asked to compare themselves with others, people generally express a variation of this. It's the equivalent of an optical illusion. We cannot seem to see our faults and irrationalities, only those of others. We know, however, the reality, and so some people, perhaps all of us, are merely deceiving ourselves. Rationality and ethical qualities must be achieved through awareness and effort. They do not come naturally, they come through a maturation process. Beware the inflaming factors. low-grade emotions and continue to affect our thinking, and they originated from our own impulses. For instance, the desire for pleasing and comforting thoughts. High-grade emotion, however, comes at certain moments, reaches an explosive pitch, and is generally sparked by something external, a person who gets under our skin, or particular circumstances. The level of arousal is higher, and our attention is captured completely. The more we think about the emotion, the stronger it gets, which makes us focus even more on it, and so on and so forth. Our minds tunnel into the emotion, and everything reminds us of our anger or excitement. We become reactive because we are unable to bear the tension this brings. High-grade emotion usually culminates in some rash action with disastrous consequences. In the middle of such an attack, we feel possessed, as if a second limbic self has taken over. It is best to be aware of these factors so that you can stop the mind from tunneling and prevent the religion action that you will always come to regret. We should also be aware of high-grade irrationality in others to either get out of their way or help bring them back to reality. Trigger points from early childhood. In early childhood, we are at our most sensitive and vulnerable. Our relationship to our parents has a much greater impact on us the further back in time we go. The same could be said for any other public experience. These vulnerabilities and the wounds remain buried deep within our minds. Sometimes we try to repress the memory of these impulses if they happen to be negative, great fears or humiliations. Sometimes, however, they are associated with positive emotions, experiences of love and attention that we continually want to relive. Later in life, when a personal event would trigger a memory of this positive or negative experience, and whether we release of purple chemicals or hormones associated with the memory. Take for example, a young man who had a distant, narcissistic mother. As an infant or child, he experienced an awkwardness and his abandonment. And to be abandoned must mean he was somehow unworthy of her love. Or similarly, a new sibling on the scene caused his mother to give him much less attention, which he equally experienced as abandonment. Later in life and in a relationship, a woman might hint disapproval of some trait or action of his, all of which is part of the healthy relationship. This would hit a trigger point. She's noticing his faults, which he imagines precedes her abandonment of him. He feels a powerful rush of emotion, a sense of imminent betrayal. He doesn't see the source of this. It is beyond his control. He overreacts, accuses, withdraws, all of which leads to the very thing he feared, abandonment. His reaction was to need some reflection in his mind, not to the reality. This is the height of irrationality. The way to recognize this in yourself and in others is by noticing behavior that is suddenly childish and its intensity is seemingly out of character. This could center on any key emotion. It could be fear of losing control, failure. In this case, we react by withdrawing from the situation and the presence of others, like a child calling up into a ball. It suddenly unless brought on by the intense fear would conveniently cause us to have to leave the scene. It could be love desperately searching to recreate a close parental or civil relationship in the present, triggered by someone who vaguely reminds us of the lost paradise. It could be extreme mistrust originating from an authority figure in early childhood who disappointed or betrayed us, generally the father. This often triggers an sudden rebellious attitude. The great danger here is that and between the present and reacting to something in the past, we create conflict, disappointments, and mistrust that only strengthen the wound. In some ways, we are programmed to repeat our experience in the present. Our only defense is awareness as it is happening. We can recognize the trigger point by the experience of the emotion that are usually primal, more uncontrollable than normal. They trigger tears and deep depression or excessive hope. People under the spell of the emotions will often have a very different tone of voice and body language as if they were physically living a moment from early life. In the midst of such an attack, we must struggle to detach ourselves and contemplate the possible source, the wound in early childhood, and the patterns it has locked us into. This deep understanding of ourselves and our vulnerabilities is a key step toward becoming rational. Sudden gains or losses, sudden success or winnings can be very dangerous. Neurologically, chemicals are released in the brain that give you a powerful jolt of arousal and energy, leading to the desire to repeat this experience. It can be the start of any kind of addiction and manic behavior. Also, we gain calm quickly, we tend to lose sight of the basic wisdom that true success, to really last, must come through hard work. We acquire feelings of grandiosity. We become especially resistant to anyone who tries to spoon us. To understand, we tell ourselves, because this cannot be sustained, we experience an inevitable fall, which is all the more painful, leading to the depression part of the cycle. Although gamblers are the most upfront to this, it equally applies to business people during bubbles and to people who gain sudden attention from the public. Unexpected losses and a string of losses equally create irrational reactions. The solution here is simple. Whenever you experience an unusual gains or losses, that is precisely the time to step back and counterbalance them with some necessary pessimism or optimism. The actual will sudden success and attention, they are not built on anything that lasts, and they have a addictive pull, and the fall is always painful. Rising pressure, the people around you generally appear sane and in control of their lives, but put any of them in stressful circumstances, with the pressure rising and you will see a different reality. The cold mask of self-control comes off. They suddenly lash out at anger, reveal a paranoid streak, and have become hypersensitive and often petty. Under stress or any threat, the most primitive parts of the brain are aroused and engaged, overwhelming people's reasoning powers. In fact, stress and tension can reveal flaws in people that they have carefully concealed from view. It is often wise to observe people in such a moment, precisely as a way to judge their true character. Whenever you notice rising pressure and stress levels in your life, you must watch yourself carefully, monitor any signs of unusual brittleness or sensitivity, sudden suspicions and fears disproportionate to the circumstances. Observe whether such detachment is possible, finding time and space to be alone. You need a perspective. Never imagine that you someone who can withstand rising stress without emotional leakage. It is not possible, but through self-awareness and reflection you can prevent yourself from making decisions you will come to regret. It is best to recognize these inflammers and by how they affect others, not just yourself. No one can remain indifferent to them. People find themselves incapable of reasoning and maintaining any distance in their presence. They make you think of them continually when not in their presence. They have obsessive quality and that they can lead to extreme actions of devoted followers and inveterate an enemy. Okay? Group effect. Being in a group does not stimulate independent reasoning, but rather intense and desire to belong. It is often best to avoid the group setting if possible in order to maintain your reasoning powers, or to enter such moments with the maximum skepticism. Demagogues in politics and the media try to stir a continuous sense of panic, urgency, or outrage. They must keep the emotional level aside. Your defense is simple. Consider your reasoning powers and your ability to think for yourself. Your most precious possession resent any kind of intrusion upon your independent mind by others. When you feel you are in the presence of demagogue, become doubly wary and analytical. The irrational simply changes its look and its fashions. Rationality is something to be acquired by individuals. First and foremost, it is existent throughout history and in all cultures of people of high rationality, the types who have made the progress possible. Warren Buffett, to name but a few. All of these types share certain qualities, a realistic appraisal of themselves and their weaknesses, a devotion to truth and reality, a tolerant attitude toward people, and the ability to reach the goals that they have set. The second factor is almost all of us at some point in our lives have experienced moments of greater rationality. This often comes with what we should call maker's mindset. When you have a project to get done, perhaps with a deadline, the only emotion we can afford is excitement and energy. Other emotions simply makes it impossible to concentrate. Because we have to get results, we become exceptionally practical. We focus on the work, our mind calm, our ego not intruding. If people try to interrupt and infect us with emotions, we resent it. These moments, as fleeting as few weeks and hours, reveal the rational self that is willing to come out. It also requires some awareness and some practice. Know yourself thoroughly. The emotional self thrives on ignorance. The moment you are aware of how it operates and then dominates you, is the moment it loses its hold on you and can be tamed. Therefore, your first step toward liberation is always inward. You want to catch the emotional self in action. For this purpose, you must reflect on how you operate under stress, what particular weaknesses come out in such moments. The desire to please, to bully or control, the levels of mistrust. Look at your decisions, especially those that have been ineffective. Can you see a pattern, an underlying insecurity that impels them? Examine your strengths. What makes you different from other people? This will help you decide upon goals that match you with your long-term interests and that are aligned with your skills. By knowing and valuing what makes you different, you will also be able to resist and pull up group bias and effect. Examine your emotions to their roots. You are angry. Let the feelings settle from within and think about it. Was it triggered by something seemingly trivial or petty? That is a sure sign that something or someone else is behind it. Perhaps a more uncomfortable emotion is a source, such as envy or paranoia. You need to look at this scare in the eye. Dig below any trigger points to see where they started. For these purposes, it might be wise to use your journal in which you record your self-assessment with ruthless subjectivity. Your greatest danger here is your ego and how it makes you unconsciously maintain illusions about yourself. This may be comforting in the moment, but in the long run, they make you defensive and unable to learn or progress. Find a neutral position from which you can observe your actions with a bit of detachment and even humor. Son, All of this and it will become second nature when the emotional self suddenly rears its head. In some situation, you will see it as it happens and be able to step back and find that neutral position. Increase your reaction time. This power comes in through practice and repetition. When some event or interaction requires a response, you must train yourself to step back. This could mean physically removing yourself to a place where you can be alone and not feel any pressure to respond. Or it could mean writing that angry email but not sending it. You sleep on it for a day or two. You do not make phone calls and communicate while feeling some sudden emotion, particularly resentment. If you find yourself rushing to commit to people, too hired to be, or be hired by them, step back and give it a day. Cool the emotions down. The longer you can take, the better, because perspective can save time. Consider this like resistance training. The longer you can resist reacting, the mental space that you have for actual reflection, and the stronger your mind will become. Accept the people as fact. Interactions with people are the major source of emotional turmoil, but it doesn't have to be that way. The problem isn't in that I continue judging people, wishing they were something that they are not. We want to change them. They want them to think and act in a certain way, most often the way we think and act. And because this is not possible, because in everyone is different, we are continually frustrated and upset. Instead, I see other people as a phenomena, as a neutral and a common of plants. They simply exist. They come in all varieties, making life enriching and interesting. Work within what it does give you, instead of resisting and trying to change them. Make understanding people in fun game, the solving puzzles. Solving of puzzles, it is all part of the human community. Yes, people are irrational, but so are you. Make your sentence in human nature as radical as possible. This will calm you down and help you observe people more dispassionately, understanding them on a deeper level. You will stop projecting your own emotions onto them. All of this will give you a more balance and calmness, more mental space for thinking. Find the optimal balance of thinking and emotion. We cannot divorce emotions from thinking. The two are completely intertwined. But there is inevitably a dominant factor. Some people are more clearly governed by emotions than others. The horses are emotional nature continue impelling us to move. This horse has tremendous energy and power, but without a rider it cannot be guided. It is wild, subject to predators, and continually heading into trouble. The rider is an Arkansas. Through training and practice, it holds the reins and guides the horse, transforming this powerful animal energy into something productive. The one without the other is useless. Without the rider, no directed movement or purpose. Without the horse, no energy, no power. In most people, the horse dominates and the rider is weak. Instead of being slaves to this energy, we channel it. That is the sense of rationality. As an example of this ideal in action, try to maintain a perfect balance between skepticism and curiosity. The two can coexist. It is a balance that all geniuses possess. You have felt this in your own life and observing project. Time flying by and experiencing occasion bursts of excitement as you make discoveries or progress in your work. There are other places as well, being able to tame the emotional self, loosening over a calmness and a clarity. In this state of mind, you are less consumed by petty conflicts and considerations. Your actions are more effective, which also leads to less turmoil. You have the immense satisfaction of mastering yourself in a deep way. You have more mental space to be creative. You feel more in control. 오케이. 아우, 아파요. 음.